Sometimes in baseball, you can do everything that's in your control well, swing at good pitches, hit the ball really hard, hit line drives, and still walk away with a poor result. That sentence describes the entirety of Ben Rice's 2025 season. By nearly every measure of contact quality and hitting ability, Rice should be hitting like one of the best hitters in the league, though his numbers don't stand out that much at all. He has been an above-average hitter this year with a WRC plus of 130, but by my measurement, this number is way too low. I have come to the conclusion that Ben Rice is not just getting unlucky, I am fairly certain the baseball gods have cursed him. Cursed to the point that he's having unprecedented levels of unluckiness this year. It's quite literally something that we have never seen before, and to see how strange this really is, we need to compare what should be happening with Rice to what's actually happening. By the way, most of you watching this are not subscribed, so if you enjoy the video I would appreciate it, as it's the best way to support the channel. Rice has a batting average of .246 this season, though based on the contact he's made so far, he has an expected batting average of .299. That is a huge difference. In fact, that difference is the most negative this year out of all qualified players, just above Michael Conforto. I know batting average doesn't show the full picture, but if Rice was hitting near 300, I know a lot of opinions would change on him. To get a more overall picture, we can look at WOBA, weighted on base average. Rice's WOBA this year is .353, which is solid in the 82nd percentile. He's around guys like Bo Bichette, Matt Olson, and Jazz Chisholm. Though if you look at his expected WOBA, it's .414, which is in the 98th percentile. There are only 4 qualified players with WOBAs higher than .414: Aaron Judge, Nick Kurtz, Shohei Ohtani, and Ronald Acuna Jr. The gap in Rice's actual and expected WOBA is negative .061, which is the second most negative in the league. Juan Soto is the only one above him with negative .065. Both of these numbers are on pace to be the most negative differences ever recorded over a qualified season. This is just the surface level though, as this number is hiding a lot. Just because it's so negative doesn't necessarily indicate the lack of luck. There are some other things that could explain this difference. If the differences between WOBAs and ex-WOBAs were really indicative of luck, we would expect them to appear like random noise. One season a player may be in the negatives, but in the next year, he has just as good of a chance to be in the positives. This is not the case though. These expected stats take into account exit velocity and launch angle, two things that the hitters control, but it's not the full picture. Take a look at this ball hit by O'Neal Cruz. It's a high pop-up to shallow right field. Its expected batting average was .026 and its ex-WOBA was .030. But somehow it dropped in for a hit. Over a long season, this type of contact is not going to sustain this result. On the other hand, Cruz also smoked this 114 mph line drive for an out. Its expected batting average was .886 and its expected WOBA was .958. I don't know, you tell me which one Cruz should be rewarded for. But there is a catch to all this. According to WOBA minus ex-WOBA, this was the unluckiest out Cruz recorded this year. In fact, almost all of the quote-unquote unluckiest outs this year are routine fly balls to straightaway center field. Why do we see this? Well, simply because these expected stats don't take into account the direction at which the ball was hit. If these balls were hit to left or right field, they are no doubt home runs, but they were actually hit to center field, so they're relatively routine outs. League-wide this year on fly balls hit straight away, hitters on average have a WOBA of .276. The expected WOBA all the way up at .503. That's a negative .227 gap. But it's not bad luck, it's just the geometry of a field. When the balls hit to the deepest part of the park, the exit velocities needed to do damage go way up. The launch angle window that leads to extra base hits is a lot smaller too. In contrast, on pooled fly balls this year, hitters on average have a WOBA of .879. The expected WOBA though is lower at .663. That's a difference of positive .216. It looks like hitters are getting lucky, but no, they're just hitting the ball to areas where it's easier to do damage. You don't have to hit the ball with crazy exit velocities to get a home run down the line. Ex-WOBA doesn't account for this because it deliberately strips out directional and context-based advantages, aiming instead to isolate only the raw quality of contact. This isn't a critique of the stat itself, it's more against the interpretation of it. Players can control the direction they hit the ball. We see players that can repeat their batted ball data year over year. We know players like Isaac Paredes, TJ Friedl, and Jose Altuve are good at elevating the ball to the pull side, which allows them to consistently overperform their expected numbers. Juan Soto, on the other hand, has consistently underperformed his expected numbers in his career. Just 1 out of his 7 full seasons did he have a higher ex-WOBA than WOBA. That's due to the fact that he hits a ton of fly balls to center field, and he doesn't pull the ball in the air a ton. This reveals the first possible explanation for Rice's negative .061 difference, but the more you look at his numbers, the more unexplainable it becomes. Based on what we just talked about, you would expect Ben Rice to conform to a certain batted ball profile. He has a huge negative gap between his real and expected WOBA, so we expect a lot of fly balls hit straight away, and not a lot of fly balls pooled. But when we look into his numbers, we get the exact opposite. He pulls the ball in the air 26% of the time. That's good for 25th out of 252 qualifying players. He has a straight air rate of 17.8% of the time. That's good for 214th out of 252 qualifying players. These numbers suggest that Rice should be way overperforming his xWOBA and expected batting average. Not only is he not overperforming, he's underperforming at a record pace. Because of this, I did some digging. Out of all of the player seasons in the StatCast era since 2015, there exist 8 qualifying seasons that had a batted ball profile as extreme as Rice's, a pool air rate of at least 26% and a straight air rate of at most 18%. Dalton Varsho's 2024 and 2022 seasons, Nolan Arenado's 2023 season, Isaac Paredes' 2023 season, Max Kepler's 2019 season, Brian Dozier's 2019 and 2015 seasons, and Mark Teixeira's 2015 season. All but one of these seasons overperformed their expected numbers. The average difference out of all of these seasons was positive .018. Let's look at how a few of the more recent seasons turned out in detail. Dalton Varsho was great in 2022. He had a WRC plus of 106, making him an above average hitter despite being in the 25th percentile in exit velocity and hard hit rate, 6th percentile in expected batting average, and 27th percentile in expected WOBA. In 2024, the story was similar. He had a WRC plus of 98, meaning he was around league average, though his underlying numbers once again don't look impressive at all. One might assume that Varsho has gotten lucky over those seasons, but no, players with his batted ball profile typically see this pattern. Just like Isaac Paredes in 2023, despite poor underlying metrics, he was legitimately one of the best hitters in the league, posting a WRC plus of 136 and a F4 of 4.2. Nolan Arenado's 2023 is more of the same. This one's the least crazy out of the seasons here, but his numbers are still helped out by his batted ball profile. That is where we get to Ben Rice. Rice has better underlying numbers than all of these guys, and it's not really close. Plus, he's also made good swing decisions and makes a lot of contact. He has a chase rate in the 91st percentile and a whiff rate in the 61st percentile. He had almost an identical batted ball profile to these hitters' seasons, though he's not getting the same reward. If Rice saw the same improvement, he would be one of the most productive hitters in the league, but he's not. Of course, he has a difference of negative 61, which is way worse than any of these entries on this list. Rice has a WRC plus of 130 this season, which is good for 27th in the league. That's still a really solid season, but far from what you would expect when we look at similar batted ball seasons. If things were to go Rice's way, as they did in the other seasons we looked at, he'd be closer to the top 5. This, in my eyes, makes this the unluckiest season I've ever seen, and we aren't even done yet. These expected numbers don't take into account park factors, another possible explanation for this negative 61 difference. And remember, he plays in Yankee Stadium, the 4th friendliest park in baseball for lefty power hitters. Pool hitting lefties typically feast there. Lefties hit 22% more home runs there than they do elsewhere. Overall, Yankee Stadium has a park factor of 101 for lefty hitters, meaning it benefits left-handed hitters slightly. Rice is doing everything right to take advantage of this, and somehow he's still getting robbed. So if these two don't explain it, then what does explain it? Is there even an explanation? To answer this question, I watched every single out that Ben Rice has hit into this year. The only answer I could come up with is that he is just getting unlucky. Just look at this 106 mph line drive he elevates to right field. His now teammate Jose Caballero robs him of a home run. Contact like this usually rewards the hitter, but not in this case. This batted ball had an xWOBA of 1.102. Rice has had a lot of these hard hit liners find gloves of the right fielder. If he is just literally a few milliseconds earlier or later in his contact point, these are most likely extra base hits, but he consistently finds the glove. It's not only that the ball is finding the glove is finding the ball. Defenses have played extremely well against Rice this year. On his batted balls alone, the opposing defense has posted 4 outs above average, which puts him in the top 40 amongst 310 qualified players. If we restrict it down to just balls to right field, where Rice hits it the most, it gets even more glaring. Based on how far the right fielder had to travel and how long the ball was in the air, they were expected to catch 83% of Rice's batted balls, but they actually caught 90% of them. This means that outfielders added a 7 percentage point increase to the success rate than what was expected to happen. That number is the highest in the league this year and is on pace to be one of the higher numbers we have ever seen in the StatCast era. This defense is coming from some unusual sources as well. Juan Soto made this 75% catch probability catch look rather easy. Soto's been one of the worst defensive outfielders in the league so far this year. He's yet to make a 4-star or 5-star catch and has only made 2 3-star catches. But with Rice at the plate, he played it pretty well. Or what about the 38-year-old designated hitter Andrew McCutchen making this play? This one had a catch probability of 60%. Of course, McCutchen was a good defender in his prime, but we're about a decade past that at this point. He suddenly transforms back into his old self with Rice hitting. Oh, and this number probably should be even higher because the catch probability on this play was 95%. Catch probability in OAA's biggest weakness in the outfield is definitely the failure to accurately represent the difficulty of making plays near the wall. Rice had very few balls labeled as catchable actually fall for hits. This batted ball was the quote-unquote easiest catch that dropped for a hit, which had a 40% catch probability. It's a tough life to be 2025 Ben Rice. So we started with this difference and tried to explain it in ways that we have seen in the past, but every corner I try to go down, this difference just became more and more unexplainable. I've gotten to the point where I'm done trying to explain it and just accept defeat. It could just be random noise, and if it really is random noise, Rice is experiencing the single most unluckiest season we have ever seen. If this luck really does even out over time, Rice is sitting on one of the biggest breakout explosions waiting to happen. Until then, we're watching what might go down as the most unluckiest season in modern baseball. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.